thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to get engaged and to hear from me, and hopefully I can win your vote tonight and your support. Thank you to Beth for hosting this. I really do appreciate it. I was just telling another person one of the biggest things right now is just getting the word out that I exist, right? That these school board races are going on. That they're really important to our community for a lot of reasons. Not only because for the most important reason, the kids that we have in our schools, but also because of what our schools do to lift up our community, to make our community the beautiful place that it is. I just want you to know the reasons I kind of got into this. I toyed back and forth for a long time, for actually about a month and a half, with whether or not I was going to think about running for the school board. I had a couple of really good friends talking to me. I would call them up and I'd say, I'm thinking about it right now. What do you think? And they would give me a little bit of advice, but never tell me, one way or the other. And then I'd talk to Adam and my husband, and he would say things like, I'll support you, whatever. And then I would say, I don't think I'm going to do it. And then I'd shut up for a few days, and then something else would come up on social media or some other educational nonsense would happen, and I'd start talking about it again. And finally, there were a few things that happened with some teachers here locally that really were negative toward the teaching profession and other things. And I thought, here I am, someone with the ability to do it with a teacher's mindset, who's a current teacher in a different school system, which allows me to kind of serve on a school board here. I have a unique set of skills and a unique set of experiences and a lot of background that allows me to have a viewpoint that I think is valuable to the school system. I have 26 years of teaching experience. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in education, 26 years of countless hours of professional development and teaching and child development and all that kind of thing. And just by years of working with other little human beings and their parents that have taught me a lot of things about what it means to support children and to support schools. So I felt very strongly that I had sort of a perspective that was important to have on our school system here that is usually not represented. The other thing that pushed me toward this is what I have seen as the rapid increase in diversity we have in the city of Germantown. We moved out here about 14 years ago. And when we were out here, when we first moved here, our family was very unique. Very unique. Over the last 14 years, we're not so unique anymore, right? This town looks very different than it did 14 years ago. And I think that is a very beautiful and very positive thing. And so my mission as a teacher has always been to welcome every kid that walks into my classroom, however they are, whoever they are, and wherever they're coming from. Let me welcome them as they are. Let me talk to them. Let me figure out who they are, who their family is, and let me figure out how to best serve them as their teacher. And that's another voice that I don't think a lot of our community understands yet. It's so vital because some of us don't always see that diversity and that change that we have in our community that I think is so important. If you look at my website, you see I have some commitments that I've made. Commitments to kids, commitments to families, commitments to teachers, to public education, and to the Germantown community at large. For kids, it's again that just welcoming every single child into our district, how they present themselves to us, and making sure they have a safe and supportive learning environment to experience the wonderful educational offerings our schools have to offer. Our schools are top. They're at the top. By any measure you could measure schools, Germantown schools are here. And that says a lot about the community and support of our school. It says a lot about the resources our community has to support education and the resources our families have to support their kids in their educational process. But again, we have that diversity here. So how do we as a district make sure every kid that walks into our school is seeing themselves reflected in their education, is being supported by that education, and feels comfortable and safe to be a part of that education? That's important to me. When it comes to families, making sure our families know that the educational offerings that our schools have are the best that we can offer as a community, making sure that they know their family is going to be respected and heard and a part of that experience. That's really, really important to me. To our teachers, there's a lot of negative. I'm a teacher and I see it, and I maybe take it a little bit too personally sometimes, and maybe a little hypersensitive to it and see it more than others because it's what I do. I think sometimes teachers get a really big bad rap. These are teachers in this district, and I've worked in rural schools in Mississippi. I've worked in very poor urban schools within the city of Memphis, and I've worked in suburban schools that have lots of resources and everything they could have wanted. Right, that's where I am now. So I have a really wide experience of knowledge with with students of all different backgrounds. So how do we as a community sort of make sure that all of that is seen? Because we have that diversity in our town. We have that socioeconomic diversity in this city. We have all of that represented in our schools. So as a community, how can we support that and make sure that every family, every kid is coming to the table, and that every teacher, to get back to that commitment to teachers, has the resources and support they need to make sure those kids have what they need? How do we support them to do that? That's really important because they're doing amazing work. I know so many teachers in this community that are every single day, giving it their all and making magic happen for these kids every day. And I don't always think that is seen by our community. The teachers are the heartbeat of our schools. They are exactly what is the best thing about Germantown schooling. They would not exist the way they do without the awesome teachers that are here. How do we as a school board and as a community support them, protect them, offer them resources, not just classroom resources and resources to teach, but also resources that attract them to work here. And once they're working here, retain them, give them reasons, stay here because we cherish you, we want you here. This is why. Our community has a capacity that is unmatched in our metropolitan area to do just that. I mean, there's no way to talk about it any other way. As it comes to public education, I've spent my entire life, from the age of 5, I entered a public school as a kindergartner. I went through public schools until I graduated. I went to a public university for my bachelor's and my master's degree, and I immediately started teaching in public schools. So for 45 of my 50 years, I have been inside the walls of a public school at least 10 months of that year for my whole life, since age of 5. I am passionate about what public schools offer. My kids could be in private schools. I don't want them in private schools. I want them to have that public school experience. I want them to have the diversity to interact with kids that are different from them, from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different ethnicities and religions and all of that. I want that for my kids. I think it's important. Public education has been sort of the backbone of this nation from its founding. We want an educated populace. 90% of kids in our country attend public schools. Do we understand as a community, as a state, as a nation, what that actually means? I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of us don't, So how do we advocate for public education in a way that lets our community know how important and vital it is? That's really important to me. I've worked at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with teachers unions, with lobbyists on Capitol Hill to work to support public education. That has been a theme through my entire adult career. And then to the city of Germantown. I've lived in Midtown, I've lived in East Memphis, and now we've lived in Germantown for almost 15 years. I love living in this city. It is truly a privilege to live in this city. It's a privilege because it costs money to live in this city, right? Let's face it, it does. Why is this city so attractive? Why are property values so high? The number one reason is the public school system. There are multiple private schools within this city, within the boundaries of Birmingham, but it is the public school offerings that are fueling the drive and the desire for people to be in our beautiful town. And those property tax dollars, because of these property values, are the reasons our medians are beautiful and have beautiful flowers. They're the reasons we have lead services that take care of all kinds of business and will show up to your house and check on it when you're out on vacation and all of the above, right? Because of the resources that the tax dollars bring to make this a wonderful place to live. That is a privilege that most do not have. Our public schools are the reason, they're the driver of them. So to making sure people within our city understand that, first of all, which I think the majority of us do. I think if you're paying attention, you realize what the schools bring to our city, but also that we are a good steward of those facts, and that we are a partner with our community, with our city leadership, with our corporate leadership, and with those of you who work with corporations in the metropolitan area. How do we bring all of those entities together to support what we already know is amazing? That is something that I'm committed to making sure I do. So I am happy to answer any questions you have tonight. I will talk about anything at any time and tell you my honest truth about it. Sometimes it may not be politically advantageous, but it is who I am, right? And I believe as a public official, as someone that's running for a public office, you need to know who I am and what I stand for. Because those are the things that I'm going to be using to address issues that come before the school board. I'm going to use those things to make those decisions, and you have every right to know where I stand on those things before you can vote for me, right? So, like I said, I appreciate you being here. I'm here to answer any questions you want to answer. I appreciate you coming out and spending your time. I'm thankful that we have so many really engaged citizens within the city. Again, thanks to Beth, my amazing sister-in-law, and her husband Doug, my brother-in-law, for hosting this tonight and having you all out. Enjoy the food, have some lively conversation, ask me whatever you want, and hopefully I can win your vote on November 8th. Or early voting starts October 19th.
Jim, can I share an observation?
Absolutely.
My daughter is a public now has gone to use the